There's this voice in your head. You know the one. It starts with a simple question like, did I lock the door? And suddenly, it's 3 hours later and you're questioning every decision you've ever made in your life. If that sounds familiar, welcome. You, my friend, have officially joined the Overthinkers Club. Don't worry, we meet daily, usually around 2 a.m. in our beds, staring at the ceiling, replaying every awkward thing we said in 2008. But here's the twist no one tells. Overthinking isn't just annoying, it's exhausting. It doesn't solve anything, it just drains your energy, delays your decisions, and robs you of peace. So today, let's flip the script. Let's talk about what actually helps. Because behind every thought spiral is a simple truth. Your mind is trying to protect you, but it's doing it in the messiest, loudest, most unhelpful way possible. And the truth is, you don't have to stay stuck. You don't have to keep carrying this invisible weight that makes you question your every move. So what's the way out? It's not about shutting your thoughts off like a switch. It's about learning how to step out of the spiral before it. That takes you under. Imagine waking up and not feeling immediately overwhelmed. Imagine making a decision without doubting yourself 73 times first. Imagine quieting the noise. Not forever, but just enough to hear your own voice again. That's what we're doing today. This isn't just another motivational speech. This is a guide, a real, step-by-step process built on clarity, self-compassion, and action, because your thoughts are powerful. But they don't have to run the show. So here's how this works. In this video, you'll learn 12 science-backed, soul-tested ways to calm the chaos inside your head. These aren't hacks. They're habits. They don't rely on pretending you're fine. They're about helping you become actually fine. One decision, one moment, one breath at a time. We're going to start by understanding what's really happening when you overthink. Because, spoiler, it's not because you're broken. It's because your brain is wired to protect you, and sometimes it goes overboard. Then we'll talk about how overthinking steals from your energy, your creativity, your peace. And most importantly, we'll learn how to catch it in the act, interrupt it with humor, and gently redirect our focus without judgment. And don't worry, this isn't going to be another lecture on just be mindful or let it go. Because if it were that simple, you wouldn't be here. You're here because you want something better, not a perfect life, but a lighter one. A life where your mind feels like an ally, not an enemy. A life where you finally get to exhale. So if your brain feels like a browser with 43 tabs open, and you don't even know which one is playing music, this is for you. And before we dive into the steps, let me say this. You are not weak for struggling with overthinking. You are human. You're doing your best in a noisy world that constantly demands more of you. But today you get to choose differently. Today you get to take one small step toward peace. And sometimes that step starts with something as simple as pressing play. And listening all the way through, let's get started. Before you can stop overthinking, you need to understand why it shows up in the first place. Because here's the thing, your brain isn't trying to sabotage you. It's trying to protect you. It's doing what it thinks is best, even if it's doing it in the worst way possible. Overthinking starts as a defense mechanism. It tells you, if you can think through every possible outcome, you'll avoid pain. You'll avoid failure. You'll stay safe. Sounds logical, right? But here's the catch, it doesn't actually work that way. You see, the brain is wired for survival, not happiness. So it prefers the familiar, the predictable, the path of least resistance. And when it senses uncertainty, like making a decision, stepping into a new situation or taking a risk, it goes into overdrive. It throws thoughts at you like, what if you fail? What if they laugh at you? What if this is the wrong move? And then it keeps going at, what if you succeed and then can't handle it? What if you make the right decision and still get hurt? And suddenly you're not just thinking, you're looping over and over. Same questions, same fears, no answers. It feels like you're doing something productive, but you're really just stuck in the mud. Overthinking feels like control, but it's actually avoidance. Avoidance of discomfort. Avoidance of risk. Avoidance of trusting yourself. Because if you can stay in your head, you don't have to take action. And if you don't act, you can't fail, right? But here's the hidden cost: you also can't grow, you can't learn. You can't live fully when you're trapped in fear pretending to be logic. It's like your brain is running on old software, like Windows 95 in a world that now runs on lightning-fast updates. It freezes, glitches, crashes under pressure. And instead of saying, hey, maybe we just need a reboot, it says, let's run 87 more simulations of what might go wrong, just in case. But life doesn't happen in simulations. It happens in real time. And every moment you spend overthinking is a moment you're not living. So the first step is awareness, not blame. This isn't about telling your brain it's bad. It's about saying, thank you for trying to protect me, but I'm okay now, I don't need this loop anymore. Because at its core, overthinking is a response to fear. Fear of making a mistake, fear of being judged, fear of losing control. But what if the real power comes from releasing control, from saying, I don't have to know everything. I don't have to predict every outcome. I don't have to get it perfect to move forward. What if thinking less actually brings you more peace, more clarity, more confidence, more space to breathe and just be? Let's take an example. Imagine you're trying to decide whether to send a message to someone, maybe a friend, maybe someone new. Your brain kicks in. What if they don't respond? What if they think I'm weird? What if I say the wrong thing? What if it changes everything? And round you go. You rewrite the message 10 times. You check their profile. You wait. You delete. You overanalyze the punctuation. Now pause. What's really happening here? You're not solving a problem. You're avoiding discomfort. You're trying to think your way out of vulnerability. But vulnerability isn't a problem. It's a sign of aliveness. And that moment where your fingers hesitate above the keyboard, that's the space where freedom can grow. Because in that space, you can choose. You can choose to send the message anyway, not because you're certain of the outcome, but because you're ready to live without being controlled by the fear of what if. So when you notice overthinking kicking in, don't try to shut it down instantly. Just ask, what is my brain trying to protect me from? Is this thought helpful or just loud? Is this fear or wisdom? Sometimes your thoughts are worth listening to, but many times they're just echoes of old fears dressed up as caution, and you don't have to obey them. You can say, I see you, I hear you, but I'm not letting you drive today, because you're not a victim of your thoughts. You're their observer. You get to choose which ones lead and which ones you leave behind. And over time, with practice, your brain starts to learn. It's okay to let go. It's okay to move forward without knowing exactly what comes next. It's okay to trust yourself, even when the voice of doubt whispers otherwise. So remember this, overthinking didn't start as your enemy. It started as protection. But protection isn't always peace. Peace comes when you realize you're already strong enough to face the unknown. You've already survived things your mind swore would break you, and you'll do it again. Not by thinking harder, but by thinking differently. Recognize the cost of overthinking. Overthinking feels harmless at first. It's just you sitting there, thinking, turning things over in your head, trying to figure it out, just being careful. But little by little, it starts to take something from you. And the longer you stay stuck in your thoughts, the more it steals. The cost of overthinking isn't just mental. It's emotional, it's physical, it's spiritual, and it's silent. It doesn't scream. It doesn't break things. It just quietly pulls joy out of your day until you look around and realize you've been spending your life thinking about life instead of living it. Let's be real. How many hours have you spent reliving a conversation you had 3 days ago? How many mornings have you wasted staring at your closet, paralyzed by a simple decision? How many nights have you lost lying in bed with your brain replaying every possible future that may never happen? It adds up. It's time you'll never get back, and worse, it's time that could have been used for something beautiful, something creative, something fun, something real, but instead it gets spent inside a mental fog. And here's the thing, overthinking doesn't just waste time, it drains energy. Every what-if consumes mental bandwidth. Every mental loop burns emotional fuel. It's like leaving all the lights on in a house that no one's living in. You end up exhausted, but not from doing anything. From thinking about doing everything. You walk around with your shoulders tense, your jaw clenched, your chest tight, and you don't even realize it's because of thoughts you haven't said out loud. You feel tired, but wired, busy, but stuck, alert, but unproductive, because while your body is still, your mind is running a marathon, and the finish line keeps moving. The truth is, overthinking doesn't bring clarity. It brings confusion. It doesn't bring control. It brings paralysis. It doesn't make things better. It makes things bigger, until even the smallest task feels impossible. You start to doubt yourself. You start to believe that you're incapable of deciding, of trusting, of acting. And that belief becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You stop applying. You stop reaching out. You stop showing up. And not because you don't care, but because you're afraid of choosing wrong. But here's the twist. Not choosing is a choice. Not acting is an action. And often, it's the one that hurts you most, because it tells your mind, you're right, I can't be trusted. And every time you avoid a decision, your confidence shrinks a little more, until you no longer believe in yourself, only in your doubts. But it doesn't stop there. Overthinking poisons your relationships. It makes you read between the lines until you can't see the actual words. It makes you second-guess what someone meant, why they said it that way, why they haven't texted back, what their tone really meant. It creates stories in your head that feel just as real as facts. And before you know it, you're reacting to your assumptions, not reality. You become distant, defensive, overly apologetic, or afraid to speak. And none of it was necessary. Because most of it wasn't real, it was just noise your brain made up in the absence of certainty. Now imagine what your life could feel like without that weight. Imagine going through a day without your thoughts turning every small thing into a threat. Imagine making a choice and trusting that even if it's not perfect, it's enough. Imagine reclaiming all the hours you've spent analyzing and using them to experience, to laugh, to create, to connect, to rest. Because the biggest cost of overthinking isn't time or energy, it's presence. It robs you of the moment you're in because it convinces you that the future needs your full attention. But the future doesn't exist yet, only now does. And when you miss now, you miss everything. So ask yourself, how much is your peace of mind worth? How much is a full night of sleep worth? How much is that sense of calm, the kind that says, I made the best choice I could, and that's enough for me? Because that peace is possible, but you have to start noticing the price you're already paying. You have to be honest with yourself. Is your overthinking helping or hurting? Is it keeping you safe or keeping you small? Is it protecting you or preventing you? Because here's the truth. Overthinking doesn't prepare you, it postpones you. It delays your growth, it steals your joy, and it convinces you that staying stuck is safer than showing up. But staying stuck is just another way of disappearing. And you weren't born to disappear, you were born to move. To try, to fail, to get back up, to learn, to evolve. And none of that happens in your head. It happens out there, in real life. So recognize the cost, not to beat yourself up, but to wake yourself up, because your life is waiting. And the longer you think about it, the more you miss it. Catch yourself in the act. Overthinking doesn't knock on the door and announce its arrival. It sneaks in, quietly, like background music you don't notice until it's been looping for hours. Suddenly, you realize your stomach is tight, your breathing is shallow, you're frozen, lost in your thoughts, again. But here's the turning point: awareness. The moment you catch yourself overthinking is the moment you regain power, because before that, the thoughts were controlling you. Now, you see them. Imagine you're a detective and your mind is the suspect. Your job? Notice the clues. Start with your body. Is your jaw clenched? Are your shoulders stiff? Are your fingers fidgeting without you realizing? Now move to your mind. Are you replaying a moment from earlier today? Again. Are you building imaginary conversations with someone who never said those words? Are you predicting disasters based on nothing but fear? These are signs, patterns, red flags. And the most important thing you can do is name it. Not with shame, not with judgment, just with clarity. oh, there it is again, my mind's spiraling. Or even, wow, I'm back in my what-if loop. Some people even give their overthinking a nickname, not to mock it, but to separate it from their identity. Call it Captain Catastrophe, or Overthinking Olivia, or The Drama. In turn, whatever makes you smile, because naming it creates distance, and distance creates choice. Now you can decide what to do with it, instead of letting it drive. You might be wondering, but how do I notice when it happens? Sometimes it feels so automatic, exactly because it is. Overthinking becomes a habit, and like any habit, it runs on autopilot. But here's the good news. Autopilot can be interrupted. Start by planting mental checkpoints throughout your day. Moments to pause and check in. When you wake up, am I already bracing for problems that haven't happened? Before you send that message, am I rewriting this for the 5th time because I'm afraid of being misunderstood? When you're in the shower, am I imagining arguments that never existed? And especially before bed, that sacred moment when your mind loves to open the floodgates. Pause and ask, am I trying to solve problems with worry instead of action? These questions don't need answers. They're just mirrors. Mirrors that help you see your thoughts instead of become them. And here's where the real shift begins. Because once you spot the pattern, you can interrupt it. You can choose to breathe. You can choose to ground yourself. You can choose to say, this is not helping me right now. Overthinking loves secrecy. It thrives in the shadows. But when you shine a light on it, it loses its grip. So the next time you catch yourself spiraling, don't panic. Don't scold yourself. Don't try to shut the thoughts down. Just say, there's that old loop again. And then ask, what's one small thing I can do instead of keep thinking about this? Because thought loops need fuel, and attention is fuel. Remove your attention, and the loop slows down. Now here's a bonus technique that sounds strange, but works like magic. Exaggerate it. Take your overthinking to the most ridiculous extreme. Worried you made a typo in a text? Okay. Imagine the recipient prints it, frames it, presents it at a grammar convention, and you're banned from texting for life. It's absurd. And that's the point. Laughter breaks the spell. It reminds you, wait, this isn't as serious as my brain made it out to be. That moment of humor? It's a crack in the mental armor. It lets light in, it brings relief, and most importantly, it brings perspective. Another powerful trick. Speak it out loud, not to someone else, just to yourself. Say, I'm thinking too much about this right now, and that's okay. But I don't need to keep going. Something about hearing your own voice makes it real. It pulls you out of your head and back into your body. You remember, I'm not my thoughts. I'm the one noticing them. That awareness, that separation, that's where freedom lives, because the goal isn't to stop overthinking forever. It's to catch it sooner, interrupt it earlier, choose a different response faster. You won't always win, but every time you do, you reclaim a piece of yourself. And here's the best part. It gets easier. The more you practice noticing, the quicker you'll recognize the signs. It'll go from I've been overthinking for days to I've been overthinking for 30 minutes to oh, I was about to spiral, but I caught it. That's growth. That's power. That's you. Remembering that you're in control. Now, because overthinking can only thrive in the background, once you bring it to the front, look it in the eye, and name it for what it is, it loses its mystery. It loses its power. It becomes just another habit you're learning to unlearn, and you're learning fast. Catch yourself in the act. Overthinking doesn't usually arrive with a warning sign. It sneaks in, quiet, familiar, like a song you've heard so many times that you don't even realize it's playing in the background anymore. It starts with a thought, then another, then a memory, then a what-if, and before you know it, you've lost 10 minutes or 2 hours inside a spiral you didn't mean to create. But here's the truth. You can't change what you don't notice. So the first real step toward freedom isn't fixing your thoughts. It's seeing them. It's catching yourself in the act. Think of yourself like a detective. And your brain? The suspect. Start paying attention to your patterns. Where does your mind go when you're tired? What do you think about when you're alone? What sets off that spiral? Sometimes it's a simple comment from someone. Sometimes it's silence. Sometimes it's making a decision, checking your phone, or looking in the mirror. Whatever it is, learn to spot it, not with judgment, but with awareness. Imagine this. You're replaying a conversation from earlier, obsessing over what you said or didn't say. Your chest feels tight, your thoughts get louder, and there's this heaviness you can't shake. Stop, take a breath, and whisper to yourself, "There, it is. That's my brain overthinking again." That one sentence changes everything, because now, you're not inside the spiral, you're watching it, and when you observe it, you create distance. That distance? It's power. Most of us live in our minds like they're absolute truth. If we think it, it must be real. If we feel it, it must be urgent. If we imagine it, it must be a threat. But thoughts are not facts, and emotions are not always truth. They're signals, not verdicts. So the more you can name what's happening, the more you can reclaim your calm. Try giving your overthinking a name. Yes, literally, a name. Call it Nervous Nancy or Doubtful Dan. Call it Overthinking Oscar or Catastrophe. Kathy. Why? Because when you give it a name, you stop identifying with it. You're not saying I am broken. You're saying, oh, that's just Catastrophe Kathy doing her thing again. It sounds silly, but silly helps. Humor interrupts heaviness, and laughter gives you back control. Another clue to look for is physical. Overthinking often has a feeling before it has a thought. Maybe your stomach tightens, your shoulders rise, your jaw clenches. Those are signs. Your body whispers what your mind hasn't admitted yet. So start noticing your body. When do you tense up? What triggers your racing heartbeat? That awareness will become your superpower. It gives you a chance to pause before the spiral starts. Overthinking is automatic, until it's not. Once you start noticing it, you gain the power to choose, to step out, to say, I don't need to follow this thought right now, to breathe instead of chase. And here's a truth you may not have heard before. You don't have to believe every thought your mind offers you. You can look at it, thank it for trying to help, and let it pass. Like a cloud in the sky, like a car on the road, like a song on the radio that doesn't match your mood. You can say, no thank you, not today. But first you have to catch it. And here's the beautiful part. The more often you catch yourself, the less often you fall into the loop. It's not about being perfect. It's about being present, because presence interrupts patterns, and patterns lose power in the light of awareness. So the next time you notice your thoughts racing, do this. Say it out loud. There it is again, that spiral. Then smile. Yes, smile. Because awareness is a win. Every time you catch yourself, you're building a new habit. A habit of noticing. A habit of stepping back. A habit of choosing peace. Overthinking is like a storm. But you're learning to be the eye of it. Still, grounded, unmoved. Not because the storm is gone, but because you are no longer inside. So pay attention, be the watcher, notice the clues. And when you see the spiral forming, don't run. Just nod and say, I see you, but I'm not following today. And then, come back to this moment, this breath, this life, because this moment is real. The rest, just noise. But here's the beautiful part. Every time you choose to breathe instead of spiral, every time you take one small action instead of overanalyzing, you're rewriting the script your mind has followed for years. You're teaching your nervous system that it's safe to let go, that you don't need all the answers to move forward, that peace doesn't come from certainty, but from trust. Trust in yourself, trust in the process, trust that life unfolds in the right way, even when you don't have it all figured out. So let this be the moment you choose to live lighter, to stop turning your thoughts into prisons and start using them as stepping stones. Let go of the illusion that worrying more will somehow protect you. It won't. It just robs you of the present. Instead, choose presence. Choose progress over perfection, curiosity over control, faith over fear. Overthinking will tell you to wait until you're more prepared, more confident, more ready. But your life is happening now, not tomorrow, not when everything's lined up, right now. So if you needed a sign, this is it. Send the message. Apply for the job. Say what you feel. Start the thing that's been on your heart for too long, because The truth is, you don't need to have it all together to move forward. You just need to start. And when your mind tries to pull you back into doubt, into fear, into delay, pause, smile, and say, I see you, but I'm not going there today. You're choosing something better. You're choosing freedom. You're choosing to live a life that's not dictated by imaginary disasters, but guided by real, grounded action. This isn't about shutting off your brain. It's about changing the way you relate to it. It's about becoming the observer instead of the prisoner. It's about giving yourself permission to think, but not to drown. Because at the end of the day, you weren't born to live on pause. You were born to create, to experience, to grow, to connect. So step out of the loop, breathe deeply, and walk forward, even if it's slow, even if it's shaky. Even if you're still figuring it out as you go, that's okay. That's how real growth happens. And I promise, on the other side of overthinking, is a life of clarity, courage, and peace you didn't even know was possible. So here's your reminder. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to trust the next step. Take it, and never forget, you are stronger than your thoughts, wiser than your worries, and far more capable than you think. Now go, live, breathe, and stop overthinking. It